Hello, my name is Ricky Grove, and I am leading CompletelyMachinima.com for the month of November 2022. I'm here with my pals Tracy, Harwood, and Damien, Valentine.
Hello.
Hey guys, we're
Hello.
missing Phil. He got in a fight with a hurricane, unfortunately, and he has very limited internet access. We miss you, and we hope you'll be back with us in December, Phil. All right. Like to make the point the news has moved to the blog. Tracy, thank you for your hard work on putting together the blog notes and all of that. It's not an easy thing to do, but you'll find interesting news there. The stories that we would have done a full episode on are part of the blog. We'll be putting links on our Facebook page so you can find out more about it. Now we're going through new films. I've done my pick. Tracy's done hers. Now we're going to see what Damien came up with. Damien, you have two choices, sort of a major one and then sort of a special recommendation. Why don't we do the major one first? What's your choice?
This is. I wasn't actually looking for a pick when I came across this, and it was shared on Twitter of all places.
Huh.
It's called The Remnants, and it's made with a combination of Real Engine's character creator, for obvious reasons, what that was used for, and Unreal Engine 5 for the actual animation and rendering. It's a very unusual pick because there's no dialogue in the entire film. Um,
Huh?
but it still tells a very effective story. You don't need the dialogue to understand exactly what's going on. It's kind of like this. There's always some kind of post-apocalyptic events happened, and it deals with someone who's survived whatever that is, because the film doesn't elaborate on it. And she runs into someone else who's obviously survived and is trying to make the most of the situation. And it's kind of split into three parts, where there's kind of a bleakness bit, there's a hope, and then there's what happens at the end, which I'm not going to elaborate on because I don't want to give any
Yeah,
spoilers.
let's don't spoil it at all at the end.
No. But that's the three act section. I think it works quite nicely for the story that was being told there. It was stunningly animated and rendered, and the characters look great, which is obviously with character creator that's quite easy to do. And I believe there's some motion capture was done for the actual animation. But yeah, I watched it. I thought this is going to be my pick for the day, even though I wasn't even looking for it, and I came across it. So there's a happy accident there. So what do you guys think?
Oh boy, was it good. I just loved it. I was I'm a sucker. First off, I'm a sucker for anything that's post-apocalyptic. I've loved that ever since I was old enough to watch movies based on that. Alas, Babylon, On the Beach by Neville Shute, just endless amount. The Last Man on Earth, that great Vincent Price movie. I just love the whole idea of everything of all of this that we're a part of, all this organized culture gone, and how people respond to that. Now, there have been some really terrific stories told about this, and not a lot of them have been incredibly creative because the stories are so traditional. You see the same kinds of things and kinds of reactions, but there are new ways to make them fresh. And that's what I thought Stan Patrick, the director, did. Is he made, even though the situation and how it turns out is familiar, he was able to make it new enough so that you put that aside and you got involved in the world and the people, especially with the empathy, with no dialogue. It puts the focus on the character's facial expressions and body motions and the acting, basically, the puppeteering of the thing. And I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. Um, all of the elements came together to create a compelling story that moved me and made me sad in many ways and excited. And again, I'm a veteran of this kind of stuff, so that's a hard thing to do. But the look of the place, the changing quality of lighting in it, the expressions on the faces in particular, when this woman who's starving encounters this person in the forest at a a campfire, the person is looking at a photo. And if you look closely, you can see that's a photo of a woman, and you get the feeling that there's this sense of loss, that maybe this person lost them in this this apocalyptic event that occurred, and is moody about it. And at first is very defensive, but then relents. And in that relent, you see this sort of smile come across the person's face, as if it's nice to meet somebody else. Those sort of little touches really made the difference in the movie. And again, it was a motion capture by Xsens, and the combination of the two just was so effective. I was really taken by this film, and I'm so glad you picked it. It was quite moving.
I agree with you, Ricky, actually. First of all, I think this film was part of Reallusion's pitch and produce program.
Oh,
that you may recall we talked about a few months ago. So it's really great to see actually some of the work that's come out of that. And great that Reallusion are supporting creators too.
yeah,
so
I
I
wish
was
more
really
would do
pleased
that.
to see that. Yeah, good one. Now, this film for me had all the hallmarks of an Eastern European style that we've talked about before. Do you remember Irradiation? That we reviewed? Ironically, we reviewed it as part of last year's Halloween pick.
Oh,
and also at the same time, I think we talked about. Do you remember The Ship by Medley?
yes. Oh, yeah.
It had shades of that. They're both of those sort of films for me. Now, as you sort of said, it portrays the aftermath of some sort of terrible. You kind of get the sense of a global disaster, and it says in the film 2,000 days after it happened. 2,000 days. And apparently the central character is called Victor. And he is wandering aimlessly around the forest, seemingly waiting to die.
Starving.
Hallucinating, and at one point falls unconscious and wakes up to see something he seems to have been dreaming about. And it's fire and someone sitting by the fire. And now, interestingly, I think it is actually the fire that's really the central and outstanding imagery in this whole film for me. Through it, you get the sense of disaster, how this person came to be where he is, and it seems he was probably already in some kind of remote place when perhaps an atomic bomb went off nearby, perhaps. And then you view the interaction between Victor and this other character through a heat haze and sparks of the fire.
Right.
Down to the detail of how the characters respond to the fire. You know, it's warmth and comfort, for example, you know, stretching out their hands and whatnot. I mean, the detail of these effects is absolutely extraordinary
I know.
and mesmerizing. And that combined with the fact there is absolutely no talking and this, you know, this very sort of tinny soundscape and the crackling of the fire, you get really immersed in it really quickly. I think anyone that's ever sat and watched Bush TV, as we call it, will immediately get a sense of the immersiveness that comes over you when you are watching fire. It kind of feels believable, and from the characters, the character reactions, you definitely get the sense of being near that fire too. But there are a few things that I'll mention. When I went through the film the first time, and without really reading anything around it, I wasn't really sure whether the character was male or female. It's interesting, Ricky.
Yeah, neither did I. Yeah.
Well, you said it was a woman as well, and my first thoughts were that the person was actually female.
And mine.
Thin. Yeah, and you as well. It's really interesting. So, you know, quite thin. Obviously, given the scenario, that would be accepted. You know, skin quite scarred and grey. Also, really, you know, that was all quite appropriate to the story. But I think perhaps some of the features on that might have been what led us astray a little. You know, the skin was a little bit shiny. The eyes were quite large and bright, and the hair was a little bit vagabondish. You know, think what's her name, Frances McDormand.
Mhm.
Nomadland type thing, and this kind of large jumper, and you know, bearing in mind 2000 Days, the clothes were really quite clean. Being uber picky here, for this kind of postal apocalyptic sort of thing,
Right.
and then the hair and lack of it. Is that what you would expect for somebody 2000 Days into a disaster? It was, you know, maybe too short and too tidy, perhaps. I don't know. Again, being very picky. But overall, I think it was the eyes that made me think about the gender of the character. And so, when I was you know, going through it's that kind of genderization that actually made me quite curious about the ending in particular, and reflective of that sort of scenario and how the circumstances could or might drive anybody to do anything. But I think I was really shocked by the outcome, and I guess
I
that's
was too.
mainly because I don't relate so much to women being the ones to do those kinds of things. I don't know. Maybe that's my inherent sort of bias showing. Anyway, I still didn't really question the gender choice, even at the outcome, because I thought what I saw in the face of that character at the end was shock at their own choice. And it's only when I read the description that the name of the character made me realize I probably read more into it than perhaps there had been intended to be. Or maybe, or you know, or maybe, you know, maybe I was right all along. I don't know, but I certainly, you know, when I went back and thought maybe that wasn't female but male, maybe I would have thought about that in a slightly different way. I don't know.
Mm.
And now I've noticed, when I think about it, those very bright eyes, kind of in a way that I've picked up on the teeth a few months ago. Maybe they are too bright and a little too glistening somehow.
Mm.
Not really reflecting age that well, perhaps. And I think it's something that I will probably revisit when we talk about another film later this month as well, Alone, which I think suffers from a similar kind of challenge.
Right.
Now, there's a really nice description of Stan's pipeline to create the film and the tools he's used, which I'll put a link to, and he's also given quite a lot of comments about his use of Character Creator, which is on Reallusion's website, and obviously it's because of the pitch and produce link as well. So yeah, I mean, I was really intrigued by this one. Really great pick, lovely film.
Yes.
Just with a few little things that I kind of
Little things, right?
little things, yeah. No, and they
You
are
know,
only little things, I think.
as you were talking, two ideas occurred to me. You always have interesting things to say, and it makes me think. Uh, you you oftentimes see details that are so obvious, I slap my head and go, "Why didn't I see that?" Uh, but two things occurred to me. One is the director chose not to put this in an urban setting, but rather a natural setting in a forest, which I think actually made the intimacy between the two even better. But it also had an implication for the story that perhaps the cities have been destroyed.
Yeah.
The urban environment has been destroyed and they've all gone to survive in the country. The other point that I'd like to make is that there's no real music in this. And a traditional professional company may have added all sorts of swelling orchestral tones or a chamber thing or an oboe or a cello or something like that. And I think that would have ruined the movie. So I applaud the director for choosing to just make the natural sounds and you know, the feet stepping on leaves, this crackling of the, as you say, it created that focus on flame and its sound. And I think that was just a marvelous idea.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little more sound could be added to it, just a bit more. Maybe wind could have been interesting.
Yeah.
There was also missing an ambient tone, which is always a good thing to put in a film, which is the sounds that are there that you don't recognize, but are part of the scene. Going out in the middle of a forest and getting an evening and taking ambient sounds, I think may have added a bit more verisimilitude to the scene, but niggling. Fantastic choice.
Mm,
Thank you, Damien, for picking this.
I'm
thank
glad you both enjoyed it. I thought you probably would when I watched it. I thought, yeah, this is the right
Oh
one.
yeah, oh yeah. Xsens was used to do the motion capture. Now, Xsens, I've done articles on them and have met with them and everything. They're a fantastic company, but they're expensive um, to be able to do their mocap. It occurred to me that I wonder what the mocap would have been like if you went with a cheaper mocap, or Gasp did it as traditional animation inside of Real Illusions iClone. Do you think it would have affected the believability of the animation?
Um, well, I've got Perception Neuron motion capture suit, which is one that is on the cheaper side of things. And if you're not careful with it, you can get some very messy results. So you have to, when you're using it, you have to perform the actions very carefully to get a smooth result, and you can do the
I see.
cleanup and everything afterwards. So it depends on how much effort you really want to go into in acting out the scene. Something like this where the characters aren't moving that quickly, I think it'd be all right. But I think the accent suit, it shows that even though it's more expensive, you're paying for something better.
Yeah,
I don't want to diss Perception Neuron because I really like my suit and I've got a lot of use out of it. And I know that mine's the first generation one, and they've evolved since then. But I think motion capture suits, you can't just put it on and come up with an elaborate scene and expect it to be perfect straight away. You have to take
right,
time to learn what the suit's capable of
right.
and what you're capable of when you're wearing it as well, because that's another thing. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, but I think the accents was probably the right way to go.
It's just the majority of machinima filmmakers are not going to have the money to be able to buy an XN suit.
That's
So if you
true.
wanted to do a film like this, would the results be severely hindered by not having such a sort of high-end motion capture?
I think the choice of a lower end suit or doing its hand animation or using stock animations, I would go with the lower end suit if that was my choice.
Right.
And I realize some people listening might not be able to afford that as well either. But if you have the option, a lower end suit gives you a lot of potential because you're not using stock animations or having to spend a lot of time hand animating these scenes, because the way those characters move, there's a lot of detail in what they're actually doing. So trying to do that by hand would be a huge undertaking to
Yeah.
try and get the same level.
Right. The difficulty would be in the facial animation, I think,
Yeah.
which was what the standout for the scene for me.
Yeah.
You could edit it in such a way to disguise the fact that you don't have a high-end suit by doing simple animations and using darkness and light to cover some of that stuff. But I don't think you could do that facially. That might be hard to do without having something a little more expensive. I don't know if you're some listening and you know a lot about motion capture. Let us know. Contact us and tell us whether it's possible to do this on a less expensive suit. Did you have some thoughts on this, Tracy?
Well, we have put some information about different mocap systems on the blog, including using mobile phone to do body mocap. And there's something called Move AI, which has recently come out. And as we were talking, I was just trying to find if that's free or whether you have to pay for it. I have in my head that it's free, Move AI, and it's markerless motion capture,
Right.
and by all accounts is really good and links in well to Unreal Engine 5. I think we've got some really interesting options for mocap on the blog, which I would encourage you to have a look at. And I think, as we get down the path of a lot of folks trying to think about how they tap into the Unreal model, freemium sort of model. I think we're going to find more and more of these kind of traditionally very expensive, inaccessible tools becoming very low cost to use and very much more sophisticated than they were a few years ago. And I think
I hope so.
X-Lens is is an example of a suit that's pretty expensive. I bought the iPad software. To be honest, that's quite expensive too. You've got the Rococo suits and all of those kinds of things, which are, you're talking several £1,000s to do all of that.
Yeah,
And if you can access stuff for free or very low cost, or sort of by short period of animation or type of animation using a mobile phone, for example, I mean, that makes using mocap so much more accessible to a much wider range of creatives. And I agree with Damien. If anything whereby you don't have to spend time doing all the detail of the animation yourself, by including mocap, then my guess is it makes it just a much easier thing to do, and it's more then about the acting than it is about the tech side of it.
Yeah.
My
So
personal
Damien,
go ahead. Just to finish off the motion capture, once I got the suit and I learned how to use it, I adopted the idea of using it to animate every character in every scene to give each film I'm working on a very unique feel. So if I were to use a stock animation of someone talking, that's going to be in other people's films as well, which is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But you can, with the motion capture, you can give each character their own little unique twists, and that motion is going to be completely unique to your own film. And I do like that as an option. The only thing I don't do is stunt work, because I don't want to damage the suit. So if someone's being thrown across the room or in the air or something, there's no way I'm doing that.
Right. Not to mention you'd injure yourself as well.
There's that too. I guess that's important too, not to injure myself.
Well, we'll think a little bit more about mocap, and maybe Phil can add something when he comes back. So Damien, you've got just a little extra that you'd like to share with us. What is it?
This is one. So the Remnants, I wasn't looking for a film, but when I was looking before I found Remnants, this is one of the films I came across. And it was not something I expected to see. So earlier this year, there was a Star Wars Lego video game released, and the game recreates all the 9 films, but with Lego characters instead of, like, you know who each character is, like, the Darth Vader,
right,
the Luke Skywalker and everything. But they're all little Lego figures, and it's kind of got a cartoony style to it, because obviously the style of the toys. And I did not expect to find machinima made with that game, and of course I was wrong. So someone has they've taken a needlessly complex plot point from Attack of the Clones and decided to poke fun at it by just pointing out how ridiculous it is. And
what's the title of the film? Attack
of the Clones. Oh, this particular film is So Palpatine Needs Padme Dead. And it's basically the assassination plot for Padme at the beginning of Attack of the Clones. Which is like, it's the first 10 minutes of it, and it just shows how completely ridiculous and over the top the plot was. And this is the resulting video made with Lego, which just makes it even funnier to me.
Right.
So what do you guys think?
Well, it's got that TikTok vertical framing, which I think is very amusing already right off the bat. It's excellent voice acting. I thought that voice actor was terrific. The humor is a style that doesn't particularly grab me, but I can see how it would be very, very funny to other people. It's a quick, a short, and effective project. An idea that somebody put together on the slides, perfect for machinima. I would like to see more work done in this vein, this sort of parody vein of popular news or popular films. We need to have parody in order to laugh at things that we think are overly serious, and this guy really caught it perfectly. And also the idea that plotting, traditional plotting by pros, can oftentimes be labyrinthine, and silly, and I love the way they poked fun at that. It's a perfect little film. It was terrific. Great choice.
Yeah, I have to agree. It was really good fun. Actually made as a YouTube mobile short, not a
Oh.
TikTok. Yeah. And the remit for that is it's 60 seconds. But what was quite fun about it was it's looped, so you kind of got this thing, viewed on ad infinitum. Really, it's kind of like a recursive expression of Star Wars characters involved in this plot. So kind of a fun little Lego explainer, some really quick and dirty acting, I thought, some quite demonic humor in places.
Yeah.
And it was speeded up. And my guess is it was speeded up to hit the 60-second marker.
Oh, I see.
Maybe, I don't know, but that's my guess. So yes, it was fun, almost too quick to see much.
Mm-hmm.
Because isn't there some overlay of text on it as well? So you're kind of, or have I misremembered that? Anyway, so it's
kind of like, it's not exact subtitles, but it's kind of
a bit of
subtitling.
Yes.
Subtitle-ish.
Yes. Well, that kind of detracted from me looking at what the characters were doing, because I was trying to keep up with what it was doing, what it was saying.
Well, that's why they looped it, so you could see stuff that you missed the first time.
I think I watched it about 10 times before I kind of figured it was good. So, and of course, Lego is perfect for this. There's obviously no real features to look at on the characters, so it was a great choice of a form for doing what was done with it, which I thought was really interesting. But the other thing is, I guess what I think is really quite interesting is how this medium is being used. And in this case, it's kind of clearly a taster of the material on this creator's YouTube channel. Cinematic Series Gaming is the channel. And basically, therefore, what it is an ad, although it's not clear if he's being paid out of YouTube's creator fund for this, because instead of paying folks from a share of ad revenue, shorts, as they are called, don't currently use the same model. YouTube says what they want to do is build the future of the short form video first. So I guess it's competing with TikTok on this, as you kind of suggested.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's obviously a growing medium, but only really something you see where folks have content already, presumably, or short form skits is basically their thing. And what intrigued me was this guy's racked up, or he had when I looked at it, 5.7 million views.
Holy moly!
I have to say, 10 of which were mine. And it was only released on the 29th of September. And that 5.7 million was when I was looking at it in the week. So my guess is it's, I don't know, 6-7 million by now. I don't know. I was kind of intrigued by the format as much as I was of the content and the way the guy was using it. And I was kind of wondering, maybe we should do one of those to beef up our channel a bit. But then again, I thought, you know what? We can't do anything in 60 seconds, so that isn't really going to help us very much, is it?
Yeah.
So
what was the director's name of who did this?
Well, they were called Cinematic Series Gaming.
Okay.
I don't know a name beyond that. I didn't look a name.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that's the name of the channel. I don't know the name of the actual director or the voice actor.
Right. Got it. Terrific choice, and a wonderful contrast to the Remnants. I was very impressed with that, Damien. And really, the best choices of the month, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our show. Thank you very much for watching or listening. You can see links to The Remnants by Stan Patricks and So Palpatine Needs Padme Dead on our blog and our show notes. Thank you, Tracy, for doing that. And other than that, let us know, contact us, talk@completelymachinima.com. We'd love to hear from you. about mocap or about these films. If you're the directors, contact us. We'd love to talk to you about them. We think these are excellent films. So that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with our last film for November. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.